We have created the Django project using the terminal command. So in this video we will load the project into the Visual Studio Code and try to add a few more things to create our first application. So let us go to Visual Studio Code. So when you open Visual Studio Code, you see something like this. So go to open and go to the project where we have installed. So it's in my projects folder. So this is my first Django. So I'm opening this project. So this is what you see when you first open the project. So you see the my first Django. Within that you have files like setting.py, urls.py, wsgi.py, and you have manage.py. So manage.py is what we use very often. So the file structure and the file structure is very important to understand. As we move along, the number of files and folders increases, so it is very important to understand what were there in the beginning and how things are changing as we move, as the project becomes complex. So this is what is our project. So if you go to views and click on the terminal, you will be able to see the terminal access. You can clearly see here. You can access the folder. Also, all the commands which we have used earlier can also be worked out within these terminal commands. So currently I am not in the virtual environment, so let me just type ls. You can see these are the two commands which are present. So let me go one step backward and invoke my virtual environment, or activate the virtual environment. As we know earlier, we have this command called as source my env bin and activate. So this will activate the virtual environment, as you can see here. And now once again I'll be going back to my project, my first Django, and this is where I would like to make other changes. So our first step after creating the project and loading into the Visual Studio Code is to create an app. So in order to create an app, so we are supposed to run this command, which is python manage.py. So first I'll let you know that if you see the current files in the current folder, we have my first Django and manage.py, which means that you can access manage.py directly without giving any path. So python, you can go manage.py and you can use this command called as start app and give any name. You can give my app or a calc or any name. So let me give this name called as calc. So when you run this, it's important to observe the changes which happen here. So as you can see here, there are a lot of changes which has happened in the folder structure. Okay, so you can click on this calc. There are a number of files has been generated. So these files were not there when you created the Django project for the first time. So we just had urls.py. We just had this folder. Now a new folder called calc has been created with these set of files. So in Django, we need to understand how the Django project is connected to various app and how URLs are directed, so that we render the HTML files as we need. So in order to better understand it, first I'll be using some set of slides to discuss what all various aspects which are present in Django, and later we will get back to the Visual Studio Code and understand it. So as you can see here, Django follows a framework called as MVT, which is model, view and template. We place all the HTML files in the templates, which are the final files which would be rendered. We write all the class files which are related to databases, and so models are generally are related to databases, and we have views which where we write the business logic and which is a Python file. So we can use Python language, all the libraries, and make any computation inside the views file. Whereas what we have created app, a calc app, is present here, and that is being connected to the urls.py in Django. So the flow is something like this. So user will be interacting to first he will interact to the URLs which is present in the Django project, that is connected to URLs in the calc app or any app, and that from there we will be looking for the various functions which are present in the views.py. So Django contains Django views are nothing but it takes the HTTP request as an input and returns an HTTP response. So views are basically Python functions which direct to the relevant HTML files to render, or also connect to various classes which we write in the models.py. So this is a broad overview of how the framework, Django framework is. So we have templates which where all the HTML files are present. Models is related to database, views is related to business logic. So with this basic understanding, we will try to create a basic app using in Django. So I'm going to show first what we are going to do here. So our job is to create something like this. We have a urls.py in the my first Django project. So this should be connected to a urls.py in calc app, and this urls.py is currently not there. As you can see here in the project, we don't have any urls.py in the calc app, whereas we have a urls.py in the main project. So we need to connect this urls.py in the main project to the urls.py in calc. So that can be done by placing this particular command in the urls.py of the main project. So once you connect urls.py of the app, and once you create the urls.py of the app, this will be connected to the views of views file, which is a Python file where all the functions we write. So views contains, as I was saying earlier, various methods. As you can see here, we have a home method where it takes input as a HTTP request and it renders HTTP response. We also have other commands called as render, which we use to render the HTML files, whereas here it is just a text which we are returning. So basically views, every function in the views will take a HTTP request and renders an HTTP response. So originally your views.py file looks something like this, whereas so you can customize, you can modify it, add various functions to render the right HTML files. So this is the structure we would like to create. So I would be using, so in this particular video we will be just rendering this same content with in our project. So let us go back to our project and link our project to the app. So in order to do that, so first we import path and include. So here we have by default path, so also write include, and you can enter here and also include path, include calc.urls, but we don't have calc.urls. So first our job is to create a Python file in calc. So you can call it as a new file and call it as urls.py and press enter. So you can see now urls.py is existing. So now you can link the projects urls.py to the apps urls.py. So that we can do by using this command path include calc.urls. so let us type that. So path, and we have include calc.urls, and you can end with a comma. So here I'm having only one app. What does app mean? App is just a page. It can be a login page, it can be a registration page, or a sign out page, or various pages. So currently we are having only one app here, and we are trying to create or content within this app. So we have included our calc.urls and linked it to the project urls. So now our job is to create this particular urls.py in the calc app. So currently the calc app, it is an empty file, we have created it. So let us enter this content. So if you see here urls.py, and so let's load from Django .urls. You can import path, and you can enter from import views. So you will be accessing the various methods which have been written in views through these urls. So just I can zoom it to make it more visible. So within this we will be writing various url patterns. This is where we give the actual list of all methods which are present in the views, and Django looks into each of those paths sequentially in the order, and whenever it finds the right url, so it will render it by appropriately by appropriately raising the http request through the views.py. So let us write a very basic function. So as you can see here, we have included both these lines, and now we want to create a simple method, include a simple method. So let us write path and views dot home, which, because the home method currently we haven't included it, we will be creating the home method, and because that's why we are not able to see any change in the color. But once we create the method, currently the views file is empty, so once we create the method you will see a change in the color, and you can give a name to it. So let us call it as name is equal to home. So once we are done, you can close, you can save this file, and also save the previous urls.py. So what is happening is the project urls is connected to calc.urls. So calc.urls is requesting views home method in the views file. We have imported the views, and now it is requesting home method in the views file. So let us create the views file with content in it. So views contains empty in the beginning, so let us create in the similar way. So let us load http response. So from Django dot http import http response. So we have loaded http response from django.http and create this method. So def home, and as I was saying, every method in views has a default http request as an input argument, and we write within this and we also return an http response. So we so you can use this HTTP response, and you can write something like hello world. So this is what we have done. So we have completed our views.home file. You can save this file. So now URLs, the URLs would be accessing URLs in the app is going to access views.home, and we have also loaded views. So now we are ready to actually test whether this HTTP response will render it the output or not. So let us there are few other changes which we need to do in the settings. We also need to include the app name, so we call it as calc, and so that once again you need to save this. So now once you make the changes in the settings.py, so we are finally ready to actually render the project or run the project. So let us do that. So python manage.py. So you need to be in the right folder. So let's do the ls. So now python manage.py run server. So let us see if there is anything error. So as you can see here, it is asking us to migrate. When we are creating databases, content in the database, we usually migrate often, but in the beginning let us quickly first test what is being rendered. So you can copy this or directly follow this link. It will take you to the link and you can see the hello world. So this is the first output which we have generated from our code. So let me summarize what we have done. So first we have we started with my first Django project where we had only this file. First step is we created an app called calc, where it generated these following files. In the beginning there was no urls.py, so we created a urls.py file. So we connected the urls.py in my first Django to calc.urls, and from calc.urls we were able to connect to views.home, and where views contains various methods, and home is one method. So this is the views file. In the beginning there was no content or no method present in this file. We created a home method where it takes HTTP request as an input and HTTP response. We return HTTP response. So what is happening is once we click on the link, it is calling the method. So when we see here, so we are asking us to render this function or run this function views.home, and home contains home is able to respond with the HTTP response of hello world. So this is a small application which we created. In the next video we will be rendering various HTML files. We create HTML files, we place it in templates folder, we need to make some settings in settings.py. All those things we will be discussing in the next video.